They whisper that on certain nights the sound of hooves echoes through forgotten villages. No rider ever appears, only flames spilling where a head should be. And the woman behind this curse was condemned for nothing more than love? In the dark heart of colonial Brazil, where the church's shadow stretched across every soul, there lived a curse more terrifying than death itself. The Mula Sem Cabeça, the Headless Mule. Not a demon, not a beast born from hell, but a woman transformed. Her crime, loving the wrong man. Her punishment, an eternity of fire and hooves, galloping through the night, screaming without a voice. This is not just folklore. This is a warning carved into the collective memory of a nation, a story whispered by grandmothers in the interior, where the old ways still breathe. Tonight, we descend into the origins of one of Brazil's most haunting legends, a tale of forbidden love, religious terror, and the monstrous price of defiance. Because sometimes the monsters we fear most were once just like us. Her name has been lost to time, but her story remains. In the 1700s, deep in the rural backlands of colonial Brazil, there was a woman, young, beautiful, and trapped in a world that allowed her no freedom. The Catholic Church ruled everything, not just Sunday Mass, but every thought, every glance, every heartbeat. Priests were untouchable, holy, divine intermediaries between God and man. To desire one was heresy. To love one was damnation. But she did. Some versions of the legend say she was a widow, others that she was married to a violent man. Still others claim she was unmarried entirely, just a woman who dared to feel something the church forbade. And he, the priest, felt it too. Perhaps it began with confession, a moment of vulnerability, a shared glance that lasted too long. Or maybe it was something deeper, something neither could name. But in the suffocating heat of those colonial nights, they found each other. And the village noticed. In small towns, secrets don't exist. Whispers travel faster than wind. The way she lingered after Mass, the way he looked at her when he thought no one was watching. The elders knew, the women at the market knew, and they were horrified. Because this wasn't just scandal, this was blasphemy, a sin so severe it threatened the very foundation of their faith. The punishment for such a transgression was not written in any law book. It didn't need to be. It was written in the stars, in the soil, in the ancient, unforgiving logic of a world built on guilt and fear. She would not be executed. She would not be exiled. She would become something else. On the night of her transformation, witnesses claimed they heard her screams, but not from her throat, from the earth itself. Her body convulsed, her limbs twisted, her skin hardened into hide. And where her head should have been, fire erupted, a roaring inferno that illuminated the darkness, but revealed nothing. She had become the Mula sin Cabeza, a creature cursed to run from Thursday night until sunrise every Friday, the holy days when her sin was most unforgivable. And as she galloped into the forest, hooves pounding against the dirt, the villagers locked their doors, because they knew this was only the beginning. The story spread like wildfire, from village to village, state to state. Each region of Brazil added its own twist, its own terror. In some versions, the headless mule breathes blue flames. In others, her fire is crimson, the color of mortal sin. Some say she targets only men who wander alone at night. Others claim she attacks anyone who dares look at her. But the core remains the same. A woman, a priest, a curse. Why a mule? Why not a wolf or a serpent or any other creature of darkness? Because in colonial Brazil, mules were beasts of burden, stubborn, lowly, used and discarded. To become a mule was to be stripped of humanity, reduced to a thing that existed only to suffer. And to be headless was to lose one's voice, one's identity, one's very soul. She could not speak, could not plead, could not explain. She could only run and burn. The Catholic Church weaponized this legend. Priests used it in sermons to terrify women into obedience, to remind them that love, when directed toward the forbidden, would not lead to redemption, but to monstrosity. It was a tool of control, a psychological cage. But here's what makes this curse even darker. The priest was never punished.
In most versions of the tale, he walks free. Perhaps he's reassigned to another parish. Perhaps he's quietly absolved. But she becomes the monster. Because in that world, in that time, a woman's desire was more dangerous than a man's hypocrisy. And so the headless mule galloped through the centuries, a symbol of every woman who dared to want something she wasn't allowed to have. But the legend didn't die with colonialism. It evolved. In the 19th and 20th centuries, as Brazil modernized, the headless mule became something more. A boogeyman used to keep children from wandering at night. A cautionary tale about respecting boundaries. But in the rural interior, where the old beliefs still pulse beneath the surface, people claim she's real. And they say they've seen her. There are places in Brazil where modernity hasn't fully arrived. Small towns in Goiás, remote villages in Minas Gerais, forgotten corners of the Pantanal. Places where the nights are still dark and the old stories still matter.
And in these places, people swear they've encountered the Headless Mule. Farmers returning home late, travelers who took the wrong road, children who stayed out past curfew. They describe the same thing. First, the sound. Hooves, galloping, fast, too fast. Then the light, a flickering glow in the distance, orange, red, blue, moving through the trees. And if you're unlucky enough to see her up close, you see the fire, roaring from the stump of her neck, bright enough to blind. You hear the sound, not a whinny, but something else, a low, guttural moan, almost human, and you run, because the legend says that if the Headless Mule catches you, she'll trample you, burn you, drag you into the forest where no one will ever find you. But there's one way to break the curse.
If someone is brave enough or foolish enough to remove the bridle from her mouth, she'll transform back into a woman, naked, trembling, sobbing, and she'll beg you never to speak of what you've seen. But who would be brave enough to approach a creature made of fire and rage? Who would risk their life for a woman cursed by God himself? Most wouldn't. And so she runs, night after night, year after year, century after century. In 2011, a man in rural Goiás reported seeing the Mula Sem Cabeça near an old chapel. He described the sound of her hooves as like thunder that never stops. In 2018, a group of teenagers in Minas Gerais filmed what they claimed was the creature. The footage is grainy, inconclusive, but the terror in their voices is real. Whether these sightings are truth or mass hysteria doesn't matter, because the legend is alive, not just in stories, but in the fear it still provokes. And maybe that's the point.
So what is the Headless Mule, really? A ghost? A demon? A woman who never found peace? Or is she something deeper? A mirror? A reflection of the way society punishes those who dare to break its rules, especially women, The curse of the Headless Mule isn't just about one woman. It's about every woman who was silenced, shamed, turned into a monster for being human. And the fire that burns where her head should be? That's rage, grief, the voice she was never allowed to use. Colonial Brazil may be gone, but the structures that created this legend still exist. Women are still punished for their desires, still made into cautionary tales, still told that their bodies, their choices, their love belong to someone else. The Headless Mule runs because she cannot rest, because the world that cursed her never apologized. But there's another way to see this story. Maybe the curse isn't the transformation. Maybe the curse is the silence. the way we forget her name, the way we focus on the spectacle of the monster and not the tragedy of the woman. Because monsters aren't born, they're made. And sometimes they're made by the very people who claim to protect us. So the next time you hear hoofs in the dark, don't just run. Ask yourself, what did she deserve this for? And more importantly, who decided she was a monster?
If this story stayed with you, if it made you think or feel or question, then share it. Leave a comment below telling me which folklore legend I should cover next. Maybe something from your own country, your own childhood nightmares. And if you want more stories like this, stories that dig beneath the surface and find the humanity in horror, hit that subscribe button. Join this community of people who aren't afraid of the dark. Because the scariest stories are the ones that are true. Thank you for watching. And remember, some curses never end.